I'd like to remind everyone in the chambers to ensure that comments are respectful to the council and all meeting attendees, including city officers and those in our public gallery. Please note this meeting is being live streamed. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Before we take attendance, I'd like to acknowledge the sad passing of former councillor Graham Pittaway last week, and to advise councillors that Mr Pittaway's funeral will take place at 10 a.m. on Thursday, the 2nd of February at Infant Jesus Church in Morley. I will formally recognise Mr Pittaway's service to the city at our ordinary council meeting next week. So I'll move on to attendance. Councillor Sutherland and Councillor Clark have provided apologies, and Councillor Ostrowski is attending via electronic means. All other councillors are present in the chamber this evening. Item 5, disclosures of interest. Are there any councillors who have an interest to disclose? Councillor Eveson?
Yes, mine's 10.5.1, proposed lease extension, lot 39, King William Street. It's an impartial interest. I bank with Bendigo Bank on a transactional basis.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Thank you. Item 11.3, Safe Routes to School. I'm on the board of the Maylands Peninsula Primary School, so it is an impartial interest and I will stay in the room.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Item 10.4.2, the proposed naming of a laneway. It's an impartiality interest, so I'll stay in the room. The nature of the interest is my in-laws and husband own a property on the other side of the lane in the city of Stirling. So I'm not sure if it's related or not, but I thought I'd better declare that.
Thank you. Councillor Ostrowski.
Thank you. Mine is impartial for 10.1.1 ward boundary and representation review. My street, the street that I live on, is mentioned in that report.
So it's, sorry, what type of interest?
Impartial.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We'll now move on to item 6, deputations. This evening we have 2 in-person deputations. I'll just explain how it works. Each person who is presenting will be invited to come forward and speak at the microphone for up to 5 minutes. As we get close to 5 minutes, I will let you know so that you can conclude your deputation. Once you have finished, councillors may have questions of you. So our first deputation is in relation to item 10.5.1. Mr Sean Kay and Barry McKenna will be in attendance speaking in support of the officer's recommendation. So please come forward, and I'd just like to acknowledge our former mayor and councillor, Barry McKenna, who's in the gallery. Good to see you, Barry.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just get you to press the... You still haven't. I know. There we go.
There we go. Thank you. Look, thank you very much for accepting our deputation. So to the Mayor and councillors and officers, it's great to be here and speaking about Bayswater Community Financial Services, which holds the lease on the King William Street property owned by council. Back in the 1990s, I was fortunate enough to be part of the people who bought the post office with the help of Stephen Smith, our federal member. We bought off the post office, and at the time the council didn't know what they were going to do with it. By 1999, with the banks closing, this council, the city of Bayswater, took a vested interest in saying we need to provide a community service. When the bank was started, the service was going to be this. We'd provide a banking service, but we ran on this idea that, yes, we would have shareholders, and of course, the majority of our profits would be given back to our community. And even today, and I've been fortunate enough to be on the steering committee since 1999 and a full board member since the year 2000, we've given back well over $2 million to essentially the people in the city of Bayswater. And I'm going to have Sean, who's been with us for well over 20 years now, to speak a little bit more. The reason for this is our deputation is we're trying to seek an extension. We support the officer's recommendation, and I'll pass over now to Sean to finish off our 5 minutes. And again, I hope that all councillors see that we are a community asset, and our goal is to give as much money to the city and its people as we can. Sean.
I'll go really quickly because Barry's taken some of that time, but thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. The concerns I've got, obviously, as our bank manager, is the commercial risk that we currently face for. We don't have security of tenure, which we desperately need to get locked in for the longer term. There are various improvements, I suppose you'd say, that we need to do to the branch, but we cannot embark on those until we know that we've got secure long-term tenure. And without that, we're just in a bit of a limbo situation. So apologies for fetching this to you, even though our current lease is not due to expire until September 2025. So it would appear that we've got a long time, but the work that we require, we need plenty of planning time to be able to get into that. I suppose our community model is one that's providing an awful lot of profit that we can actually distribute to our community, which is hopefully relieving some of the impost on council as well. So I suppose it's a bit of a win-win for all of us realistically. If we had to move out of City of Bayswater, or if we had to close branch, we don't want to go into a new branch. The big problem that we have with that is that the fit-out costs from a security perspective, or just total fit-out costs, would all be coming from the funds that we could distribute to community in future. So that is why we need to stay where we are. And obviously we can limit the amount of cost on that premises. It already operates as a pretty good bank as it is. And also I think it's fairly iconic. I think most people would argue that that building there looks like a civic. It almost looks like it's just a purpose-built premises for us. So that's the crux of why we need to get the lease extended. We appreciate the officer recommendation, and as I say, we're apologies for trying to bring this forward very early on in the piece, but we do hope that you can see your way forward to helping us with that. Other points are contained within the confidential letter that was is one of your appendixes that was sent from Barry that probably articulates a little bit better than I've been able to do verbally. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your deputation. I'll just see if there's any questions from councillors. Councillors? No. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the next deputation, which is in relation to item 11.3. Paul Andrich will be in attendance speaking on the item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you other council members for listening to my deputation tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of the Maylands Peninsula Primary School community in regards to the Safe Routes to Schools pilot program. And these are the thoughts that have been expressed to me privately and via emails to me in regards to the report that was handed down, I think, in December of last year. And essentially, the overwhelming sense is, whilst our school community is welcoming of the intent of the Safe Routes to Schools program about making safe routes to schools more amenable places for children to walk, ride, cycle to school and the like, the overwhelming sense I still get from our school community is that lack of disappointment, though, about clear intent. Like the report talks about things that have been undertaken by the City of Bayswater, but we have no idea as a school community what those actions are. So when we're talking about footpath treatments that have been undertaken, proposed works that might come out of, and I can't remember the name of the program, there's like some sort of main roads program that covers things like footpaths and the like. There's no sort of clear oversight, there's no clear transparency for our school community about the nature of those works and the funding for them. So the report talks about, in the event of these things to be funded through the normal machinations of the council and its operations. But unfortunately, as we know, sometimes money gets swallowed up by more important matters that are deemed by the council. So with the best of intentions, where there might be an opportunity to improve some footpaths or treatments along the Safe Routes to Schools pathways, unless there's some sort of clear statement of intent in the document itself, it really is a bit lacking in detail for our school community. So what we're sort of proposing, obviously, in terms of speaking in favour of Councillor Peterson-Pick's motion, is that having some sort of firm commitment from the City of Bayswater in regards to the treatments, how they'll be funded, when they'll be undertaken, the nature of those works and where they'll be proposed, so that I can report that back to my school community. Because when they ask me the question, well, do you know if things have been taken? Well, I believe so, but I can't tell you honestly, because I have no documentation, there's no proof, there's no oversight, there's no transparency that I can report back to you about what the nature of those treatments are in terms of the responses that you gave as part of the survey. I suppose the other thing too, as part of a pilot program, it's my understanding that it's a pilot program, this is a bit of a learning opportunity for the council to see what sorts of things might happen for other Safe Routes Schools to projects that might happen within the City of Bayswater. Now, if we're able to get things right in terms of the process, in terms of feedback from our school community to you guys, hopefully that'll help streamline things in the future. And knowing that, having that clear intent in regards to a budget, funding outcomes, all those sorts of things that we can see in a document produced by the council will be of greater benefit. So other school principals will be able to say, listen, this is the nature of the work that's been identified, this is how it will be funded, this is when it will be planned in terms of the machinations of the budgetary processes within the City of Bayswater, so that we can basically keep you guys honest, for want of a better word, to sort of say you had made these commitments, what is going to happen, and when is it going to happen, and how will it be funded. You know, one of our school parents took it quite personally and went to the point of actually putting through a change.org petition. Now, as you can imagine, during the school summer break, trying to motivate and mobilise our school community is quite difficult. But it's my understanding the last count was something upwards of about 230 people had signed the petition asking for those sorts of changes that I've outlined to you this evening. Other than that, as again, we welcome the Safe Routes to Schools project, but we would like to see some clear intent behind that regarding the funding, the timelines and associated things around that. So that's very much my deputation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you for your deputation, Mr Andrich. I'll just ask councillors if they have any questions of you. No, thank you very much.
Thank you for your opportunity. All the best for the evening.
Thank you.
Do I press the button?
So councillors, we've received 3 written deputations. The first one was submitted by Peter Illich for item 10.4.2, proposed naming of laneway within the street block bordered by Crawford Road, Stewart Street, York Street and Alma Street in Maylands. We've also received 2 written deputations for item 11.3, Councillor Peterson Pick, Safe Routes to School, Maylands Peninsula Primary School by Charlotte Dudley and Rory Murray on behalf of West Cycle. These have been provided to councillors, are available on the city's website, and I will take those as read. So we'll now move on to questions on agenda reports, and we'll start with the items that were subject of deputations. Does anyone have questions on item 10.4.2, proposed naming? Oh, sorry. That wasn't the first one. That was item 10.5.1, proposed extension of the lease, King William Street, Bayswater. Any questions? Councillor Peterson-Pick?
Yes, thank you. Just one question. As I understood it from the report and the deputation tonight, the applicants are seeking an extension, but the officer's recommendation is actually suggesting terminating the current lease and creating a new lease. So my question is just about the process. Does the city need to undertake an EOI process for a city building, or is there any exemption to just go straight to a lease with them? What's the process here?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, basically the city has to comply with the requirements of the Act, and we have to advertise the disposition of property in accordance with section 358. And that's principally why we're recommending terminating the current lease and entering into a new one, because under those requirements we have to advertise the disposition and talk about the value that we're going to get in return for leasing the property to Bendigo Bank. And that value also has to include a valuation of the property. So if we were just to extend the lease from the current expiry date in 2025, a valuation obtained now wouldn't really mean much. So what we're suggesting is we terminate the lease, give them that extra 2.5 years already as a 7.5-year term with a 5-year extension. So they're still going to get the same time period they want, but it's just a way of making us or allowing us to comply with the requirements of the Act a bit better.
And do we expect that we might receive other applications as part of the advertisement?
It's not that we're advertising for our application, so we're advertising and advising of our intent to dispose of the property to Bendigo Bank. So we may get submissions in saying, no, we don't agree because we'd like to do it and stuff like that, but I don't think we would. It's a similar process we've been to, for example, with the waste transfer station, etc. So it's just a standard process that we go through.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? If not, we'll move to the next item, and it was, sorry, 10.4.2, proposed naming of laneway within the street block bordered by Crawford Road, Stewart Street, York Street and Alma Street, Maylands. Are there any questions on this item, councillors? No, so we'll move on to item 11.3, Councillor Peterson-Pick, Safe Routes to School, Maylands Peninsula Primary School. Any questions on this item? No, okay. So the only councillor who's indicated they have further questions is Councillor Peterson-Pick. He'd like to ask questions on item 10.1.1, 10.3.2 and 11.1. Do councillors have any other items that they wish to ask questions on? There. If not, we'll go straight to 10.1.1. Councillor Peterson-Pick. Sorry.
Sorry, 10.1.1, I'll just declare a financial interest. I'm the chair of the Local Government Advisory Board. I'll leave the room.
Thank you. So that's a financial interest and you're, yeah, thanks. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just one question with regards to page 24, under recommended option ward boundary, it mentions that 24% preferred option 3A, and in the report itself, on page 6, it mentions that 34% preferred option 3A. So I just wanted to confirm, and obviously happy to take it on notice, what is the percentage? So if you go to the...
I'll go to the governance manager.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm just checking those numbers now. What page on the community engagement? Page 6. Yes, I can see the discrepancy there. I'll have to check the raw data and come back to you with the correct response.
Any other questions on this item, councillors? No. Okay. We'll now move on to the next item, being item 10.3.2, Nature in Cities Partnership with Greening Australia. Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Sorry, through the chair, maybe Councillor Bull.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Let's get Councillor Bull back in the room, please. So we're now looking at item 10.3.2, Nature in Cities Partnership with Greening Australia.
Thank you. Yes, 10.3.2, I'm going to declare a proximity interest because the report discusses incorporating Gobber Lake into the project. So I'll leave the room.
Go ahead, Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Yes, thank you. So the report mentions the urban forest project at Riverside Gardens, and my question is, when are we going to see a report, or the report, that we were told that we will get at some point about the needed remediation works at that site and whether trees can be planted on that contaminated site?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, a report has been produced, so we have possession of that report. We went through the whole process of doing a study. Cores were taken out of the ground and tested. In terms of being able to plant on the site, we can plant on the site. So the report says it is possible, and that also gives us some indication of how much fill was required on the site. what it does tell us is that we probably don't need as much fill as what we initially thought on the site, but that will also depend on when we do the design work for the project. At this stage, we haven't commenced the design work. Once we establish this partnership, that will be the next stage that we need to move into, is the design work. So that report, that study that was done, will basically feed into that design and translate into what volumes we need to put in terms of the soil and to achieve that necessary clearance that we require on site.
Thank you for that information. So when are we going to see that study and the public, so it's all transparent and everyone can see? Because this is an issue, obviously, was flagged with us by the officers in the report that came to us, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, as a concern. So when is it going to come back to us at a council level, showing that there are no issues?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, I mean, that report was commissioned to basically inform the design process. We can provide the report to councillors. It is a technical document. It does have technical information in there, which is mostly what's been created for the purpose of us doing the design, but I can share it with councillors if you wish to see it.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? No? Okay. We'll just get Councillor Bull back in the room. So, councillors, that concludes the public component to this meeting. As Councillor Peterson-Pick has indicated, he'd like to ask a question on confidential item 11.1. So could I please ask that we... Okay. So, councillors, if there's nothing else, I will close this agenda briefing forum at 7:23 p.m. Thank you.